Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, whenever and wherever you're watching this. My name is Angie. I'm a tutor student liaison here at the Catherine McCauley Center, and this presentation is called Being in the Hot Seat, Answering Unexpected Questions. So let's start with a fill in the blanks. See if you can complete this sentence. Mario and I blank born blank August. All right, it should be Mario and I were born in August, right? But imagine you're sitting in a class with your student and they say, Mario and I was born on August. You correct them and they might say something like, but why? Why is it were and in? I thought was came after I, or I know I heard someone say I was born on August 12th, for example. Right? This is an example of a hot seat question. It's impromptu, puts you on the spot, and maybe you have no idea how to explain that or what the answer is to that. So today we will talk more about hot seat questions, work through some examples, and then hopefully give you some skills and tools that you can use when you are put in the hot seats. This presentation focuses mostly on grammar questions, but I wanted to add some notes about a different kind of hot seat question. Sometimes we've heard students will ask for their teacher's contact information, or maybe they'll ask for a ride or for help with food or money or something like that. We just want you to know that we don't expect those needs to fall on you. We only expect your hour or hours of tutoring. Okay. Also, if your student asks you for your contact information or maybe some personal question that you're not very comfortable with, definitely don't feel pressured to give that out. I know it's easier said than done, especially when you're put on the spot, but it's okay to say, for example, I don't feel comfortable with that, or I don't want to share that information. And most of the time, they're not offended or upset by that. That being said, if you do have a great relationship with your student and you want to meet up after class, or you want each other's phone numbers or something like that, please feel free. That is totally fine. We love to see the friendships and the community here. That's what we're all about. However, if maybe you and your students text each other all the time and you say that you won't be able to come to class, please be sure to tell us that as well. Even though you've told your student, we are still expecting you both to be there. And if, for example, you can't come to class, we will set your student up with a different teacher for that day, or we'll call them and tell them not to come. Also, same thing with you. If your student can't come, we will set you up with a different student for that day, or we'll call you and tell you not to come. Okay, so please be sure to communicate. If you are on the schedule and we haven't heard from you, we do expect that you will be here. I also wanted to make you aware, if you aren't already, that we have a resource navigator on staff who is able to help our students and clients with a wide variety of things. If they express a concern or a need to you about housing, transportation, food, or money, translation help, or help understanding bills or other documents, please feel free to bring them to the office, and we will be more than happy to connect them with Abby, and she will make an appointment and help them with that. Again, and I can't stress this enough, if you're concerned, please tell us. The last thing we want is for you to feel uncomfortable or for the students to go without help that they need. So here's our contact information. If you don't have it already, please write it down. So what is a hot seat question? It is a question that puts you on the spot and makes you feel like a deer in the headlights, basically. No matter how much you know about teaching English or English grammar, I am willing to bet that you have been or will be asked questions that you don't know the answer to. We've all been there, so hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll be better prepared for when you're caught off guard. So our first example that we'll work through together is when adding ing or ed to the end of a word, how do you know how to spell it? When do you double the last consonant? For example, is it singing with 2 G's or 1? Cutting, happening, or preferred? Which of these spellings is correct? Pause the video and see if you can tell which of these spellings is correct for these 4 examples. All right, here we are, singing with 1 G, cutting with 2 T's, happening with 1 N, and preferred with 2 R's. If you got those correct, great job. If you didn't, don't worry. I mean, these grammar rules get us tripped up all the time, even native speakers. So the answer for when you double the last letter is, it has to do with the ending of the word, of course. So CVC stands for consonant, vowel, consonant. And so if the word ends in consonant, vowel, consonant and is 1 syllable, like cut or plan, you double the last letter. If the word ends in consonant, vowel, consonant and has 2 or more syllables and the last syllable is stressed, like prefer or begin, you double the last letter as well. So here's a chart with that same information. If you're a more visual learner. So let's move on to our second hot seat example. I play usually tennis on Saturday. Is this sentence correct? Why or why not? We know that it should be I usually play tennis on Saturday, right? But again, why? When does the adverb of frequency, usually, always, never, those kinds of things, come before the verb, and when do they come after the verb? So to answer that, let's look at these examples. Pause the video, look at these examples, and see if you can tell what the rule or guideline is for when the adverbs of frequency come before or after the verb that they're describing. All right, very good. So here's our answer. If the adverb of frequency describes an action verb like play, need, love, etc., it comes before those verbs. If it describes a form of to be, as in am, is, are, was, or were, it comes after that word. Also, if there's a helping verb, like should or have, it comes in between the helping verb and the verb. So drivers should always wear a seatbelt, and I have often wondered what it would be like. Third example, those of you who work in side by side may be all too familiar with this question, but when do I add ER or EST for comparisons And when do I say more or most? All right, so here's our answer. For all of these, again, for all of these, there are exceptions, but a general rule to follow is if the adjective is one syllable, you add ER or EST, so short becomes shorter or shortest. If there's adjectives with two syllables ending in Y, you also add ER or EST. So busy becomes busier and busiest. And for more and most, these come before adjectives with two syllables, not ending in Y. So peaceful becomes more peaceful, most peaceful. And for adjectives with three or more syllables. So difficult becomes more difficult. Trustworthy becomes more trustworthy or most trustworthy. All right, so we all know we as English speakers usually don't have correct or proper grammar. And learning a second language is so hard. So it's really important to remind your students that they will make mistakes and that that's okay. We all do. And lastly, grammar is a set of patterns that describe how real people use language, not a set of rules that dictate how people must speak. As long as they are being understood, that's a win in our eyes. So what can you do if you are faced with a hot seat question, if you are caught off guard? Sometimes all you need is a moment to think. So stay calm and buy time to think. You can do this by writing the examples on the board, coming up with more examples, asking the student for more context or for more background on their question. If you can, try to set it up in a way so that students can figure the answer out on their own, like we did with the adverbs of frequency, where I said, look at these examples and see if you can figure out when they come before or after their verb. Also, it's okay not to know. Sometimes the answer is you'll just have to memorize it, or it just doesn't sound right. You can grab your phone and Google it. That is no problem. Google is a great resource for these kinds of questions. Also, ask education staff. We are always more than happy to help, and we may have come across these very same questions or similar questions in our own schooling or teaching. So that is all for today. Your homework is to email your answers to these three questions to education@cmc-cr.org. The three questions are: what is something you learned from this presentation? What hot seat questions have you been asked? Or if you have a question about English in general that you want to know the answer to, and how could you go about finding the answer based on what we discussed today? So what are some of the tools that we talked about that you could use to find the answer to the question you were asked or your question? Also, are there any additional comments or questions regarding this presentation? We can't wait to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.